Well, welcome, Jay and Teanna. We're excited to have you guys with us today on this District Advance Day. Thanks so much for carving time out of your schedule to meet with us. We would love to have been with you in person, but we know it is what it is. And this is the year, this is the time that we're in. But thank goodness for technology, and we're glad to have you here. So if you would, go ahead and introduce yourselves to our audience here, and know that we're meeting in person, but we're also streaming this out to a couple of different watch sites around the district. But welcome to the Florida District. Introduce yourselves and kind of tell us what's going on right now in your part of the world.
Sure. I'll go first, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yes, we are Jay Teanna Sunberg. We currently live in Poland. That has been a new move for us, actually. We've been living in Hungary for the last 9, almost 10 years. And before that, Bulgaria for 13 years. And before that, in Moscow, Russia for 4 years. Yeah. So Poland is our 4th country, and we're new here. We live in Poznan, Poland, which is actually close to Germany, not too far from Germany. And we have 4 daughters. You may know that. And we are actually getting ready to celebrate the graduation of daughter number 2 from Trevecca, Nazarene University. She'll be graduating in May. And actually, just this week, she is doing her senior recital. And so it's a big time in the Sunberg family. And we're celebrating that. We have 2 daughters that are also at university, and an older daughter who is doing her best to get back into Scotland, where she has been living and doing ministry, but COVID. So,
yeah, it's really great to be with you today. And, it's encouraging to us in these times that are difficult, and a lot of pressures, new pressures that people have in their lives, churches have, that you remember your missionaries. And so we want to thank you for that. It's really touching to us.
Yes, awesome.
As your Nazarene missionaries, we have a couple of different roles. We serve as field strategy coordinators for the Central Europe field, which is actually 12 countries that we oversee the growth and development of the church. Basically, it's Eastern Europe and Scandinavia. Yeah. So
Really cool cultures. Yeah.
A lot of variety in cultures, and the Church of the Nazarene presence. Only one of those countries have we had presence for more than 25 years. So a lot of new countries have come in, and so we're kind of small but growing and developing, and trying to put those things in the foundation of our work that helps the church to grow and develop well. So it's been very exciting. Very exciting.
Huge amount of diversity. So diversity in cultures and in languages, also even in religious backgrounds. So actually across our field, economies, yes. But across our field, we have actually 3 world religions represented. So there's a lot of diversity.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. That's exciting to hear. We know that God is using you in awesome ways. When we ask, when we're at NMI meetings and we talk to other peers, other NMI presidents and other folks around the country, and I mentioned, hey, we're going to try to have the Sunbergs, everybody's eyes lit up. And so we're so excited to be with you today. If you would you mind just taking a minute and kind of sharing, how are you seeing God move in the midst of all the craziness that we're in right now? Because we know that God is still moving, but sometimes it's hard to see. And so give us your perspective on how God is moving and serving and doing in the midst of all the COVID stuff.
Well, I think we could talk a long time on that, but I think you're right. These are different days, and churches are having to find new and creative ways to do the things that we're called to do. But God is still moving. And I think this is a time where God is kind of shaking the world a little bit, shaking things up a little bit. And, it feels like, I don't know what you think, but it feels like we're in some major transition that we haven't arrived to yet. So, but one thing we know, that God is faithful and that God will lead us and guide us. So we're excited about the future. We live in Poland. We just moved to Poland, as Teanna said, and it's Poland is seen as the most religious country in Europe.
Most Christian country in Europe,
right? probably following, the Pope John Paul II was Polish, and the whole country was pretty much drawn to him and through him into the church in a beautiful way, in the Catholic Church. But as he's been gone for a couple of decades now, and there's been scandals in the church and a lot of influences, outside influences, really Poland is in a time of an identity crisis. And so
That's our
perception.
our perception. Yeah.
So some might ask, why are we sending missionaries to the most Christian country in Europe? It's because there's a great opportunity. There's a great questioning now. And it's just a really interesting time to be here and walk with Polish people that we've come to love through these times.
Well, and actually, it's been interesting because, we ended up in Poland because we sensed that God was really sending us to Poland, that God was leading us here. But we ourselves were asking the question of our new Polish friends, like, we don't know why we're in Poland. The doors were open. It seemed a logical move. And through prayer, we felt that this is where we were supposed to come. But, we're not really sure why God's sending missionaries to a Catholic country. But it has been the response of our Polish friends, our new Polish friends, who have said in multiple different settings, oh, actually, this is a really good time to have missionaries because of what's happening with the culture. And so we're excited to see what God will do. I think I would also say during kind of entering into this COVID time and right before and during, we've had some really major things. We've had earthquakes in several of our countries. We have a lot of people who have migrated from the Middle East and are trying to find a way to settle. So there's just been a lot of exciting, but also challenging pieces over the last, I would say, 18 months.
Yeah, we love the theme that you're talking about, dream big and start small. That's how we would describe where we are right now.
Absolutely.
We have big dreams for the people of Poland. We have a field responsibility that is with us also, but we're also putting more time and energy into the country of Poland and a local ministry here in Poznan where we live. But really it's very small right now, but the opportunities seem to be open. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We're dreaming big, but really we're taking some initial small steps towards that big vision that God has. So it's exciting. It's awesome.
It seems like that, God knows the right timing and the right place, and he positions us in ways that just sometimes immediately doesn't make sense to us, but he begins to open our eyes. And so thanks for sharing your heart on that. God's doing some awesome stuff. Tell us a little bit about what are some upcoming things that you're foreseeing, that you're planning, that you're looking towards? What are some ways that the Florida District may be able to partner with you? Of course, we would love to be able to have everything opened up and send work and witness and do all that stuff, which, of course, that's a thing in the future. We want to plan to do that. But what are some things that we can be specifically praying for? Because prayer is what moves the wheels. And so how can we be praying? How can we be supporting potentially financially? And then just tell us about what's coming up next for y'all.
Right. Well, of course, as is true all over the globe, you kind of say COVID. So if things work well this summer and we're able to, we are hoping and planning to have an annual English camp that is done here outside of Poznan. And so this is for young Polish high school students. And we bring a team of American speaking, or in this case, we're going to have some Brits as well. I guess we'll let them join with their British English. And it's an intensive week of English camp for the students. And it really is an opportunity for them to be immersed in American/British culture, and they use their language skills. But also, of course, we pray for opportunities. And this is not the first summer that we've done the English camp. It's called Lighthouse. And we, it's not surprising to hear us say God's at work in that. He was working. You can see the Holy Spirit at work in the lives of young people. And so really, we would ask you to pray for these young people. We have about 100 young people that will be there, and we believe big for what God is going to do and is doing in their hearts and lives. I meet monthly with several of them to do an English class, because we have a Polish friend who is an English teacher, and so she invites me in once a month. And so there's already relationships from past camps, and then this continuing relationship monthly that is kind of laying the groundwork. We have a family, the Terrence, coming again, COVID willing. They're a family of 5. They have 3 small kids, and we are hoping that they'll be able to arrive in June. And then camp is in July. And so you can pray for that family. We have another family, young family, moving to Bulgaria, Sofia, Bulgaria. They've been ready for a long time, and hoping that they'll be able to navigate visas and arrive there.
Yeah, some things outside of Poland. We're excited about Poland because we'll be directly involved here, but we're also excited about the rest of the field. We have recently, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, sent a young family, a young couple to Serbia and opened the work of the Church of the Nazarene in Serbia. We have done some NCM refugee work there, but they are, with their move there, it's really our opening the work in Serbia. So they've been there a year, and all of that year has been COVID, but they've been able to get into the camps and have developed some Bible studies in camps, and are also bridges to Roma people and also to Serbian people. So, that we're very passionate about Serbia.
And they're getting ready to have their first baby.
They're going to have their first baby in June,
so
and she's going to have it right there in Belgrade. So pray for them. But, if we look for points of how can we partner, our hearts would say, how can we help that work begin strong, which has been difficult during COVID, but they've done a very good job. But that's one area where we could think about working together.
And of course, we'd love to think about you coming, in the future, helping with the English class. There are other things across the field. And so that's an open invitation to you. I think we'd also say, I mentioned the earthquake. So we have a building in Tirana, Albania, a church building that was, that actually has been condemned because of the damage of the earthquake. And so that's another area where, maybe some people feel like giving to help that church be rebuilt might be an area.
Yeah, it's exciting to see how God continues just to put the small pieces together. We have the big dreams, like we're talking about, but God comes in and he's able to see the big picture when we're not, and he places those small pieces together. Yeah. Well, we have a few minutes left. I just want to give you an opportunity just to kind of share your heart. What's God been doing inside the two of you? What are you seeing? How is he moving in your hearts? How do you foresee just what's taking place in the future? And we just want to hear from you. So take just a moment and share with us what God's doing with y'all.
Yeah. So, your theme is dream big, start small. And I think that resonates so much with how we see ministry, how we live into ministry, how that happens here in Poznan, Poland, and then in the greater Poland area, but also for our field. We focus on presence. So what does presence mean? It means that we choose to be present with people and to build relationships, and those are one-on-one relationships of caring and respect, dignity giving, mutual hospitality. So I offer hospitality, but I also receive hospitality from you, right? And that recognition that you have something to give me and I have something to give you. And in that relationship, God does actually really, really big things in calling people to himself. So that idea of being present, choosing to be present, and that's a huge part of our heart, and it's a huge part of how we do ministry, missionally, missiologically. And I think, that would be part of what we would say to you as communities, who is it that God has put in front of you? And it seems small, one person, but what does God do with that?
Yeah, your theme of dream big, start small. The pathway to that big thing that God has in us and through us is that thing that's right in front of you. That's the next step. What is right in front of you? If you're a church, if you're an individual or a youth group, and you have big dreams, the first step to that is that which is right. What has God put right in front of you? And how can you take a step forward to what right in front of you and see what God can do through that and how God can build that? We believe in prevenient grace as Wesleyans, as Nazarenes. And really, when God sends the church into the world, that's really just another step of the progressing grace of God to try to reach the world for Jesus Christ. So go out into the world. Take that next step. If you're a church, take a step of faith in your community or maybe, in another part of the country or, in Central Europe where we are. Take that next step of faith and see what God will do to bless that. But what is that thing that seems to be right in front of you that seems to be the next step?
And if I could speak to that a little bit, just share a little bit of a personal testimony. In 2015, I was in the kitchen and I was preparing supper and I was listening to a documentary about children who had been orphaned by the conflict in Syria. And as I was preparing that meal, I just had this sense that I was really moved. I was emotionally moved by the documentary, and I think most of us would be. But I also had a sense that beyond that, God was asking me, what about you? I mean, it was one of those moments when I thought, no, God is really saying something to me. And actually what I felt like he was saying was, will you go? And, I thought, in my conversation with the Lord, I thought, well, this is a ridiculous question because you've called us here. We were in Hungary at the time. You've called us to Hungary. We have 4 daughters. It doesn't make sense to go to Syria. I mean, that doesn't make any kind of sense in anybody's strategic structure, right? But I had this sense that God was asking, waiting for an answer from me. And so it was really, really a difficult kind of this wrestling, but I said, well, yep. Okay. Yeah. Finally. Yes. If you want to know, will I be a bit obedient? Yes, I would go. And I just had a sense that was just a big conversation. And it was 4 or 5 months later that the crisis happened with the Middle East and
Syria began to come to us.
Refugees began to walk through. Yeah. And Hungary was the first step. And actually Syria came to us. And so I would say it is that sense of, God asks us to do something, often provides a window or a door through which to do it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't often make sense. But I think there is this aspect of responding and choosing to be present, choosing to be obedient, and then watching to see what God does. And God does amazing things. It's beautiful.
And one amazing thing, of those refugees that came through, some stayed, but most moved through. But we have Nazarenes pastoring church. They're in our pastoral ministerial development in the process of being ordained, but they're pastoring churches on our field, refugees, reaching other refugees. Yeah, it's amazing. And they're helping us reach the host cultures in Croatia and Serbia and here in Poland. So it's beautiful. I would add to what Teanna says, what can you do? For us, it's very important, what NMI does, it's not just a program, it's really important. What NMI does through praying for us, we'll never be able to draw lines from some prayer in Florida to something that happened in Poland. Maybe we'll never be able to draw that line. Maybe in eternity we will, but God answers prayer, and prayer is powerful. Very important to us, the World Evangelism Fund.
Yeah, thank you for supporting
Thank you for supporting that. Absolutely. I think it's more exciting to give money to a project, and those things are okay. But the World Evangelism Fund really is the backbone of the mission work of the church, a financial backbone. we couldn't be here without that. So,
nor could the Terrence who are coming.
Nor could the Terrence who are coming.
Yeah.
And, if you have work and witness teams and you expect to have someone there to meet you and plan for that, that would be a lot harder without the World Evangelism Fund. So,
Right.
You could, that offering is very important. And so thank you for churches that are faithful to that. And if you have an opportunity to come, we invite you to come. You come and see for yourself. Let missions begin to flow through your blood. It will change you. And we believe that it'll change you. And when you go back to your local churches, it'll change the way that you are in your local churches, that you begin, how can we reach people around us in ways on our district? How can we advance in our district in those ways? So we hope and we believe, and we've seen it, that, connection and mission is a win-win relationship.
Yeah,
it really helps us do things that we can't do. We're limited resources or people or whatever. And we believe it injects a little bit of mission blood into you and exciting. And it really is a win-win thing. So we invite some kind of partnership, some kind of let's do something together. And it would be wonderful.
And I also think, we would love to entertain pastors who would like to say, hey, could we talk about missionality? What does it look like to be missional in a local community? What does that look like for you in Poland or on your field? And we have a lot of, postmodern issues. We have countries that are very postmodern, pluralistic, and globalization. All of those things, those topics.
We've got a lot of issues. Don't we?
We live right in the center of those. We have a lot of issues, and so we'd love to have conversations with pastors and say, this is what we're seeing. What are you seeing? And what might we understand together in new ways?
Man, that is fantastic, and I love to hear, what your heart, as you said, and both you touched on different places, how you just take that very first step of faith with what's right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
And oftentimes that very first step is the hardest one to take. Teanna, you were talking about this thing from Hungary to Syria. God, why are you doing this? I love the story and the connection to see, because God's plan is much bigger and broader than we could ever dream or imagine.
Right.
But I love what you said, and thank you for saying that. Taking just that next step, dream big, start small. It's that first step. Yeah. And I believe that God will honor that and will bless that. And yes, thanks for mentioning the World Evangelism Fund. It's prayer is the lifeblood. Prayer is what makes the wheels turn. And we know that God doesn't need our money. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. We know the phrases. We can throw those around all day, but he asks us to give. And this is an important thing that we give towards. And so, churches, I want to tell you, thank you for being faithful in your WEF giving. Thank you for giving to mission specials and other things. And this is a prime example of why we do what we do. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an honor and a privilege. And we would love to set something up in the future where, like you said, you speak into our pastors and to our leaders, and we inject that kick in the hind end of missions. I think we all need that. So, but thank you so much.
It's great to be with you today. Thank you, Florida.
Yes, district, great. Enjoy your time together. And we hope to see you in the future, here or there.
There we go. That's great. We'll be planning. Okay. Well, guys, thanks so much. And we will see you all again. Many blessings.
Thank you. Blessings to you.